when
Oh yeah,
everyone seems to forget that run they made, he was like, they're looking for that next guy since they lost Dwayne Wade, and that next guy is me.
I'm here, baby. Miami, here we come, boy.
DJ Khaled. Please, Khaled, don't pair me or compare me. Unless the said party is a rare breed. The stories I hear, they tend to mirror me. At this point now, rap is only therapy.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. For this video, I simply want to ask a question. I'm not trying to push for an argument per se, but this question right here is a big part in NBA arguments, and I'm not really sure where to stand. But before we go on, let me tell you the question. The question is, how much does longevity matter? How much should longevity matter when we look at a player's career, especially when we compare them to other players? Look, like I already said, making top 10 lists and all-time lists and bugging over who's better than who is pointless. I'm more of a tier guy, I think that makes more sense. But these debates are really unavoidable, and sometimes they're just fun, you know what I mean? That's why I do them all the time. Like, if you're in my Discord, I'll be in the VC, right? I'm just chilling, watching a game, playing 2K or something. And then one person says something, and another person disagrees, and they argue for a solid 30 minutes, and somehow I end up taking a side, and we argue till 3 a.m. in the morning about the same topic. These debates happen on a daily basis, basically, and they're basically just part of the game. But let's get back on track. I specifically encounter this argument of longevity when it comes to Stephen Curry, and well, his lack of it on an all-time scale. Even more specifically, when it comes to comparing him to John Stockton. Because I hear it all the time. Are we really gonna put Curry over Stockton for 4 years of domination when Stockton dominated the league for at least a whole decade? And I totally get the argument. John Stockton did dominate the league for a longer period of time than Curry has thus far. But my rebuttal to that would be, has Stockton ever even come close to dominating the league like Curry has in the past 4 years in those 10 years? Because in the last 4 years, Curry has won 2 championships, which Stockton never did, and he's won 2 MVPs, which Stockton never even finished top 5 in MVP voting ever. But then again, the other person would rebuttal that we should put Derrick Rose over Stockton then too, right? What about Westbrook? And those are players 90% of people would not put over Stockton. And I always hear people bringing up Stockton's career assists and how it blows everyone out the water. But my question is, what does that really mean? Are you trying to use that to say Stockton is the greatest passer of all time because of longevity? Because for those of you guys who are trying to say that, let's keep in mind that Stockton played a whole 600 games more than Magic. That's roughly 7.5 seasons worth of games that Stockton played more of than Magic. But if you look at their first 900 games, roughly, that nearly 6,000 assists he has on Magic for their whole careers gets cut down to around half, just right below 3,000 more than Magic. Keeping in mind that in Magic's first 4 years, he had another guard on his team named Norm Nixon. And for those who don't know who Norm Nixon is, he averaged around 8 to 9 assists per game in those 4 years while playing with Magic. And in those 4 years, Magic as well was also averaging 8 to 9 assists per game. So it was lowering Magic's totals from what it should have been if Norm Nixon wasn't on the team. Because the season after Norm left, Magic would then go on to average roughly 12 to 13 assists for 5+ seasons. So the gap could have easily been smaller if it wasn't for these circumstances. So in a situation like this, how much does longevity matter? Another situation would be Kareem and how he ranks amongst his peers. And like with Stockton, I hear it all the time. All-time leader in points. 6-time champion, 6-time MVP, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I get that he scored 40,000 points, which is extremely impressive, and he should be praised for what it is. But again, when we're talking about who's better than who, what does that really mean? Is it really more impressive than Jordan, who scored 32,000 points in 1,100 games? Because I hear it all the time. Kareem's the greatest scorer of all time. He has the most points in NBA history. But then, in Kareem's first 1,100 games, Kareem scored 30,000 points compared to Jordan's 32,000. And going back to comparing him to his fellow peers, was he ever as good or as dominant as Shaquille O'Neal in his prime? Because I get the whole Kareem had 6 MVPs and 6 rings and the longevity argument for Kareem, but in Shaq's prime, which is around 2000, he was averaging 30 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks on 57% shooting from the field, leading the Lakers to 67 wins, with the 22-year-old Kobe Bryant only averaging 23 points. I say only because we know what he's capable of in the years following. And then he averaged 38 points, 17 rebounds, and 3 blocks in the finals. And when you look at Kareem, keeping in mind the non-proportional stats of the 70s in comparison to the 2000s, so just comparing how Kareem averaged like 30 and 17 does not necessarily mean he had a better season than Shaq, who averaged 29 and 14, you know what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind, and the level of competition he had in his prime, and the fact that in Kareem's prime, in my opinion, 1976, he couldn't even lead his team to the playoffs. And I know because of divisional standings, the record was good enough even though they didn't make it. But regardless, they were still below 500. Considering all of that, is it really too blasphemous to say Shaq over Kareem, when the points people bring up to give Kareem the edge are really just a matter of Kareem playing longer, roughly 400 more games, and accomplishments that I would credit more to Magic than Kareem? And even when it comes to longevity, Shaq's prime lasted roughly 14 years, and Kareem's lasted roughly around 16. So it's not like there's a wide discrepancy in that area too. And mind you, I've had Kareem ahead of Shaq on my all-time list since day one, but it's questions like this that really make me wonder if I should change it. Because let's be 100% honest, Kareem's longevity alongside having Magic is a huge part of why he has all these accomplishments, and these accomplishments are a huge reason as to why people rank him so high. Even though you could argue that players like Shaq and players like Hakeem in their prime were better than Kareem, and their careers as well were also good enough to compare to Kareem, considering the fact that their primes were better than Kareem's. And I'll just list off more examples of this similar argument. Who's better, Reggie Miller or Grant Hill? Who's better all time, Paul Pierce or Tracy McGrady? And the reason why this video was even brought up in my head, y'all know who's coming, man. LeBron or Jordan? It all goes back to this argument, right? Many people recently are talking about LeBron's career stats and what they'll look like at the end of his career. Some simply celebrating the accomplishment and using it as validation for his all-time great, once-in-a-lifetime career. And some, they're very vocal. Some of them are using it as an argument to say that he's better than MJ, or that he's gonna be. Nick Wright. This idea that he'll lap MJ in all major statistical categories and totals. This idea that he'll even have more assists than Magic Johnson. And again, I get the argument to the fullest extent. The ability to maintain a level of greatness for such a long period of time is something to admire and celebrate, and something to point out. But is it more impressive than doing more in a shorter amount of time? How much do primes matter in this debate? Because that's what makes this specific debate between these two players even harder than usual. On top of the longevity versus prime debate, there's also this big argument of who was better in their prime. Because 2013 LeBron, to me, matches up pretty damn well to any of Jordan's prime years. And there's also this skill level argument in which they're all so close as well. But with that being said, let me know in the comment section down below on what you think about the whole question. How much should longevity matter in these debates? Do we value it too much? Or do we value it too little nowadays? Like I said in the beginning, I'm simply asking the question because I don't know where to stand. I know the answer is somewhere in the middle, but I want to know what is the middle. Because for the examples I just asked, that middle ground is harder to find than you think, and is the reason why we have these never-ending debates. And also, if you made it this far, go ahead and subscribe to the Dish podcast on iTunes and on Stitcher. It's basically everywhere, featuring me, Dom Church, and STC. The links will be in the description for that as well. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.